Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Leaders Uncut. It is so great today to have with us Melissa Hutchins, who is the founder and CEO of Certifi AI. Oh my God, and Melissa has an incredible story. I can't wait for you guys to hear that, and you'll see how inspirational it is. Welcome, Melissa. How are you today?
I'm doing great, great. It's good to be here and excited to talk more.
Yeah, so I mean, you're really a visionary at the intersection of technology, ethics, and social justice. And my God, what you're doing is so important. You're leveraging artificial intelligence to combat digital exploitation, and you've had a personal story about that is quite compelling. I can't wait for you to talk about this if you're comfortable, obviously. And you've built a trusted AI detection tool, a platform that really serves the vulnerable and addresses one of the most pressing issues out there in our digital age, championing the integrity in this evolving AI space. So, can you talk about this? Give us some background and what inspired you to start Certify AI and why?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for that introduction.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, so my journey is kind of all over the place in some ways, but has come together in a very unique way. Definitely not what I ever thought I was going to be
Yeah.
necessarily doing or the space, but yeah, my journey founding this company stems mainly from surviving a really severe cyber stalking case that unfortunately escalated all the way up to the federal level and up to a federal trial. And that experience really revealed the critical gaps that exist within both technology and legal protections.
Mm.
So, and especially for individuals facing digital harassment, digital abuse, cyber abuse, when I saw this form of emerging technology, especially when it came to image generation, deepfake technology, and how it disproportionately targets women and girls, I recognized that this was an opportunity to transform my own difficult experience into a really meaningful piece of innovation and something that really could change not only how things have been done historically, but all of the new capabilities and tech that's going to be
Yeah.
developed in
Yeah.
the just at the pace that we're moving.
Yeah.
It is unavoidable that it's going to be much more. There's no slowing down in a lot of ways. So
It
I
is.
knew I yeah, I knew I had to do something and I couldn't wait around for others to do it for
To experience this, because I'm sure it came out of the blue. You did not expect anything like this to happen to you at that level, and then you did not know where to turn, and that's the challenge. Because when you're in a situation like this where it creates a lot of fear, a lot of chaos, and if you don't know where to turn, that's even worse. So this is exactly what you have
absolutely.
done here: built a platform where people can go, and it's a trusted platform where there's a process that they can follow. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That was one of the greatest realizations for me in these situations. And also speaking with other survivors and advocates that are familiar with these forms of abuses and attacks is that it is very unexpected and it really triggers this response of just sheer chaos. What do I
Yeah.
do? How do
Yeah.
I make it stop? And there's little to no resources to really achieve that kind of peace. And in order to achieve that, it takes oftentimes it's expensive.
Yeah.
Just to put it blatantly, it takes resources, it takes situation escalating
Mm.
to the point where resources can be allocated. And so my own background within technology and why I felt comfortable building a tech company or starting a tech company is my previous experience. I did product technical development, mainly within machine learning capabilities for images and API development. So it was very relevant to this space, and combined with my own lived experience, it gave me a unique insight into both the technical challenges and the human impact of this form of violation.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, it happened to you, but fortunately, you were able to react and create something very powerful and very necessary out of it. So I know it was hard, but in a way, it's a blessing because now look at what you have created here. For people who eventually are going through the same thing, it's life changing. So could you talk a little bit about your detection tools in layman's terms and the process? If something happens, what do people have to do? Where do they go?
Absolutely. So the approach to solving this problem, you're looking at it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
There's the technology side of things that can enable these harms, but technology isn't inherently harmful. It's how that technology is used.
Yeah.
And if there are gaps within safeguards, if there are lack of safeguards preventing that misuse, then that's really where we start to see uh, that harm expanding. So we set out to provide a really comprehensive, holistic solution for individuals and agencies to protect their own digital identity against these forms of misuse, and really focusing on how your own image is shared and used online with or without your knowledge or consent, some of which now and more common we're seeing are deepfakes.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the problem in just addressing this issue is oftentimes we don't even know how our images is shared, or friends reach out to us. The discovery process of even just knowing that there's a harmful image of us out there is incredibly traumatic. And you hear from survivors, and the way that they found out is very much through exterior sources. Like a friend sees
Yeah.
something online and reaches out to them, or the person who did it wants to kind of share, like they want the target to know what's happening. And so we've historically seen the discovery process being a external, almost confronting you with the situation that you had no idea
Right.
existed.
Right.
But now what do I do about it? And also, oftentimes it's existed for a certain significant period of time, whether it be weeks, months, possibly even years. And at that point, content has been shared, it's been documented. So the removal of that isn't necessarily a sustainable solution. So we set out to really create a tool that notifies individuals as close to the point of sharing how their image is used. And it could range from anywhere from a friend sharing your photo, just forgot to tag you, and that's okay. But again, all the way to something being shared by an unknown person without your consent on a platform that you don't recognize, creating that discovery and awareness, putting the power in the hands of the individual. And to kind of the second point of that, the response and providing individuals with the ability to act on their own behalf, where historically all of the it was a very you were dependent on external sources to help you, whether that be law enforcement, whether that be social media platforms. You were reliant on other outlets to help you, and oftentimes it took much longer than you would like, or if it got resolved at all. So really providing that notification, ability to rapidly respond, and again achieve that peace when it comes to your own protecting your own digital identity.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge legal issue to that effect as well, because obviously this is unlawful, and a lot of people do not know that it is unlawful. And you have been able to pass a law, right? Can you talk about this? Because I think it's a beautiful story. First of all, it's a great success story for you, but it's going to help everyone out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just 2 days ago, actually, we, myself and other involved advocates, survivors, legislators, policymakers, we all converged at the White House in the Rose Garden to sign a bill that became signed into law called the Take It Down Act. And essentially this was monumental, as it was the first bill addressing image-based sexualized abuse to pass through the House of Representatives and the Senate. So a very significant piece of progress, and the pace in which it went from formation to being signed into law was very quick in comparison to other laws that often take 5 years times to get to that point, if at all. So yeah, this new law is very much a key milestone towards holding bad actors accountable for these types of tech facilitated crimes, and largely have gone unpunished. And while nothing is perfect, it really represents progress for all of the advocates and survivors who've been fighting for years to achieve similar legal protections. So at a high level, it essentially criminalizes the distribution of non-consensual intimate imagery, whether that is real or AI generated. And that's kind
of because that's another kind of warmth here. With AI, you can do just about anything, and I mean that opens up so many new doors for prosecutors to be creative, right?
Absolutely. And especially when there's not a verification mechanism integrated within the legal process. So much about proving these forms of cases, if it does reach whether it's a civil case or a federal case, you're working off of what's called evidentiary support, and often taking form of sometimes screenshots, images, videos, those forms of proof. But when there's really no way of distinguishing if a piece of evidence that has been introduced has undergone some form of artificial manipulation, it really becomes a confusing, to say at the very least, an extremely confusing process, and it very much further complicates the judicial system.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So, in order to use your platform, people sign up to you go to your website, right? And then you sign up. So can you talk about this? Because a lot of people, they may think, oh my God, it's complicated, or it's going to cost me a lot of money. So I think it would be interesting to address the details as to how to start the process if they want to protect themselves.
Absolutely. And we currently have a wait list going right now because we are pre-launch, but we're excited to be launching in the next couple of weeks, and especially after achieving this legislative milestone, really being able to work hand in hand with these new legal protections, and for individuals, agencies, government, law enforcement, providing those form of resources to really aid in dealing with these cases. So yes, the way of really signing up at this point would going to our website and signing up for our wait list as we're approaching our official launch date.
Okay, so it's certifiai.com, correct?
Correct. Certify with an I instead of a Y. Certifi AI.
We'll put that in the video in the comments so we'll know exactly where to go. But this is a huge milestone. Yes. So I would imagine then you probably are planning on building a community, because that's going to be important also for people to help each other out, right? When you're not alone, it's so much easier to recuperate from an event like that may have been very damaging, especially when you're younger. I mean, at any age. Is that the case? Are you planning on building a community like that?
Oh, absolutely. And that, in my opinion, is one of the greatest differentiators with our company and what we're doing, is we're really creating a holistic solution to this problem, and such a key aspect of just dealing with not the software or the service. It's just in the process of dealing with these form of cases, knowing that you're not alone in this, because it can be a very isolating experience. You're in this position where you're frantically trying to act on your own behalf. Often, if you have the support of family and friends, that's incredible, but that's not always the case. And one of the greatest tools, speaking from my own experience and also from other survivors, is engaging with community of other people that have been impacted, so you don't feel so alone, and you can ask for advice on how somebody dealt with this other related issue. So community is a huge priority in what we're doing, and making sure that, especially education as well, making sure we're building partnerships within whether it's the nonprofit space, government, private sector, and just making sure that it's not just this response mechanism, that we're truly building towards a sustainable solution as technology advances.
And as technology advances, you're right, because that keeps coming, right? I don't think it's going to slow down. I think the pace of new technologies invading our space is coming, is increasing. So what's your vision here? I know you have lots of milestones that you have reached, that you're reaching. You're going to publish your website, people are going to be able to start signing up. What's your, I always ask to understand long-term vision. Where do you see the company going?
Absolutely. And going to a little bit off of my previous point, really my priority is, and larger vision, is building a comprehensive ecosystem around digital identity protection through, again, expanded partnerships with platforms, legal resources, support systems, and along with all of these initiatives, to continue our own advancement, advancing our own technology, keeping pace with evolving generative AI capabilities. So yes, that's our larger vision in not just building a tool
Yeah.
or a application or platform, but more so a ecosystem of
Yeah. Yeah.
protection.
That makes sense. Do you have, I'm curious, do you have any statistics as the percentage of people that are actually or have experienced what you have experienced?
It's quite interesting because it continues to evolve
Mhm.
as technology evolves. We really see those numbers shift, but there is definitely a pattern in terms of who and what communities of people are greatest targeted or most impacted. As far as uh, deepfakes go, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, but women and girls are so incredibly impacted by this issue. And that is one thing that, as kind of different news media outlets talk about, whether it's political deepfakes or deepfakes of public figures, while all of those are extremely valid, we do need to really bring in a tighter lens on everyday people that are impacted, but maybe don't have the resources
Mhm.
that kind of higher influential
Mhm.
people may have. And all cases are valid, but we're seeing in deepfake videos, for example, 96% of deepfake videos that are generated are of they're a sexually explicit content, and most of which depict women and girls. And even in my own case, within the federal trial and working collaboratively with the police department, hearing how common these cases are, even just when they're within their own departments, but the lack of resources that they have to
Yeah.
really be there for. They can't possibly be there for everyone that comes to them. They have to prioritize the most extreme cases where somebody's life is being threatened or there's an imminent physical risk or imminent physical danger. That in itself is a huge injustice
Mhm.
for those individuals, which isn't necessarily to the fault of law enforcement. It's just it's a triage system, similar to
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
how hospitals and that form of what is the highest urgency based off of the current existing resources that we have.
Yeah.
So making sure that based on those data points, statistics, numbers, that we're prioritizing the data
Mm.
that represents this
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's also building the awareness. I think when you have awareness and then you have a bill that's passed into law, I mean, that gives you a lot of power, a lot more power than before, for sure. And that
Absolutely.
creates, I'm sure, a positive snowball effect of organizations looking at you a little bit more seriously, and therefore implementing maybe some rules and action steps and reactory a different structure of reaction. I think that is also important, because otherwise we have a tendency to maybe not even believe, to say, oh, maybe she exaggerated, or maybe he made it up, or maybe, whatever the reason is. So I think it's really important to raise that awareness, make people understand that it is valid, that it's a serious problem that is impacting millions of people, that it is time to look at it seriously and implement solutions, structures, and systems that are responsive.
Absolutely. I love that. I couldn't agree. I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more.
Yeah, so first of all, I applaud you for having the courage to step out and do what you have done, because I am sure it has been very difficult, but you came out a victor, and you're changing a lot of people's lives. So thank you for that, Melissa. It's an amazing accomplishment, and it takes someone special to be able to do that.
Well, thank you. But I mean, to your point, so much of well, I mean, when I started the company, I wasn't initially kind of upfront about the why
Mm,
behind behind kind of coming into this space, or why it was so important to me
Yeah.
to address this issue. But eventually coming forward based off of my own experience and doing so because I knew how important raising awareness
Yeah.
to how common this is,
Yeah.
but it is not it for those that are targeted and have to go through these experiences, it's much easier to kind of push it down, or it's not something that is easy to talk about in general.
Oh no, of course.
It often takes a great deal of time just
Yeah.
to feel comfortable
Yeah.
describing what had happened to you, or what position you were put in. But again, kind of after initially sharing this information, I had a lot of people kind of coming up to me afterwards and sharing their own experiences for the first time
See?
and being comfortable to do so
Yeah.
because there was somebody that made it an okay thing to talk about.
And that's exactly what you did. You opened a door, which is critical because that saves lives. I really believe that. Otherwise, people can fall into depression and be ashamed and think um, they are the ones that created this, right? I mean, you hear that often. That's my fault. It's their fault. It's not your fault at all. You you
Mhm.
you fall into a trap, or you fall into the hands of someone that is actually dangerous, that is totally unethical, and that should be reprimanded for his or her actions. Because I would imagine not only girls and women, it can also happen to males, to boys, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of my close colleagues that I've come to know over the past couple of months and working on this piece of legislation, he was a father, and he still is a father that had his young son impacted, and he lost his son
Oh my God.
to a very harmful form of deepfake abuse. And
Yeah.
these are the real stories, especially for young kids
Yeah.
that are navigating. I mean, they've grown up with smartphones
Yeah.
and always having access to technology and a lot of time social media at a young age, and how that shapes their sense of self.
Yeah.
When there is something like this that happens, and within that age too, things that happen often feel like
Oh yeah.
the end of the world, or that
Of course.
there isn't they can't see beyond that horrible situation, whether it's bullying
Yeah.
or harassment online or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It feels so consuming in
Mm.
that moment. And that's where we see some of these very horrible
Yeah.
situations.
Mm.
And the goal is to make sure that not only we're developing technology to combat these harms, but also educating young children, educating the larger public of the
Yeah.
reality of what happens, even if it
Yeah.
hasn't happened to them
Yeah.
or it hasn't happened to somebody they know yet. Nobody ever thinks it's going to happen to them
Of
until it
course
does.
not. Of course not. Like you said, it's the awareness, the information has to be spread. It has to be communicated. Families should be able to talk about this. I think that's going to be very important going forward, and building that awareness, because I've heard that before. Bullying is, it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing. But there's two different forms of bullying. So now, question for you: if someone is caught, I mean, I would imagine what happens. Do we go to jail? I mean, because that's important for people to know, so that, hey, don't try to do this because you're going to end up in jail. What's the punishment of somebody actually doing this to someone else?
Absolutely. This has been one of the milestones in this new legislation that was signed into law on Monday is that there are tangible jail time level consequences for these actions and distributing this form of intimate imagery, whether it was real and in the form of revenge pornography, or it was generated by AI, or there was, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of nudification apps or nudify apps, but those are forms of artificial manipulation that can create hyper-realistic images of somebody essentially digitally undressed using this application, which never existed in real life, but it looks
real. I know.
It looks very believable.
Yeah.
But now there are consequences there are legal consequences to committing these acts. And we also want to make sure that young kids, because I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was in middle school and high school, I wasn't staying up to date on new laws or
of course not.
No.
Why would you? As a child, why would you? I mean, you don't think about things like that. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And making sure that children know, especially when it comes to what they share online, what is okay and what is not okay. And informing about what consent looks like. And that there are real consequences now, that you don't want to possibly ruin your life over something that we don't want to see young children ruining their futures.
We don't want to see that, but I think it's important for perpetrators to understand that they will never get away with it, whether they are caught or not, because their conscience will always be there. Their conscience will never leave them alone. So, if any of you perpetrators or somebody thinks of doing something like that, don't, because you'll never get away with it. Whether internally or externally, you'll never get away with it, because you have to live with it for the rest of your life. So it's a lack of intelligence. I see it as a lack of intelligence. It's a lack of control. It's a lack of emotional maturity. And if you wanted to get revenge on someone, revenge never leads to anything good anyway. So move on, live your life, be happy, but don't do things like that. It's terrible. And I agree with you, Melissa. With AI, we may see more and more cases of challenges and problems like that. This is why we needed to have someone like you create what you have created.
Absolutely. And to your point, there's a risk analysis that we as humans, when doing something that we know we probably shouldn't be doing, or there's a societal norm that is around this activity that makes it not okay, like going in and stealing from a clothing store or assaulting somebody on the street. Those are generally things that society has made not okay. And by even just our own thought processes on, existing societal norms, and what is the risk that if I do this, which I know that I probably shouldn't, and there's possibly legal consequences if I do, what's that risk? And historically for cyber crimes, that risk is incredibly low, because cyber crimes have historically been very difficult to prosecute. When we see the number of people being actually held accountable for those crimes, it is very low in comparison to how often they occur. And making sure that we can change those societal norms and that risk analysis in relation to online activity, those form of cyber abuses, making sure that people know that there are real consequences and that they will be held accountable
Yeah.
in a way that deters people
Well, of course,
from
and thank God for AI, because AI will enable the capture of those people. It's going to be a lot easier. So yeah, be careful out there. You think you will never be caught. Well, good luck with that. I think that the chance of being caught is going to be higher, and that's amazing. That's what we need. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Melissa. My God, what an incredible story. I know I always ask my guests at the end of our conversation to share a story of resilience, but you have done that since we started speaking, right? Sharing your story is a story of resilience and a story of bouncing back. And I think it's a great lesson in life in general, because we all have to face something. We're not here to sleep and think it's all going to be easy. Life is not meant to be always easy. We have challenges because we have to grow. We have to grow spiritually, and we have to learn lessons. So I'm sure you have learned incredible lessons here, but kudos to you for sharing that lesson. And like I said before, having the courage to open up, because it's hard. It's hard to open up. It takes a lot of courage, and you are going to change, and I'm sure you have already changed a lot of lives out there. So it's beautiful to see examples like that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, I do want to definitely emphasize, outside of just the evolution of my own career and leading up to starting this company, how impactful the other survivors have contributed, and the level of impact that and strength, the level of resilience that I've witnessed from other survivors that gives me strength.
I'm sure.
Just how, especially young survivors, there's two young women that have really done such an amazing job, especially in relation to this recent piece of legislation. Elliston and Francesca, they were both very young when they had deepfakes created and distributed of them, and were really the force behind this legislation. And I'm so, every time I see them, I'm so inspired by how not only well-spoken, or not only their strength and courage and bravery for using their experience to bring real change, but yeah, how well-spoken and how determined and resilient they are, given everything that they've been through. So a huge component to what we do really comes from the strength of other survivors and advocates, and what creates our own unique, what makes us unique is how we are very firmly based in supporting.
Yes, I can understand that. It's important, yes, to have that support and to have other people that are next to you to continue the journey, because it is a journey. Yeah, and it's a fascinating journey that I'm sure also gives you some motivation to get up in the morning, because you have something so important that you need to do, right?
Right, and that it's not just about yourself, or it's not just about one person. And there's no one person that can, or one company, or one anything that can push these efforts forward. It requires partnership, it requires community, it requires that level of power in numbers. So we're really excited to be a part of that, and really excited about what impact we can have.
That's wonderful. I'm sure I can't wait to hear more about what's going to happen with you and your company. I'm sure we're gonna hear of you more. So Melissa, thank you. That was just wonderful to have all this fascinating story. I mean, I call it a story, but it's your life experience and what you're doing with it. So what advice would you give to other women looking to create tech and to transform their experience into something so valuable for society? What would be, I think, parting Yeah, I would say parting words, but something inspirational that you would want to share, or something that you have learned that you think needs to be shared.
Absolutely. I would I would definitely say that recognize that your distinct perspective, whatever has shaped it, may allow you to really see opportunities that others miss. And this could be others within a traditional space, for example, startup space. Women aren't necessarily representing half, if
Yeah, yeah,
we represent a smaller portion of the tech, especially tech startups.
yeah.
But knowing that the experience that makes you different in your own industry might be and very well maybe your greatest source of innovation. It'll be your greatest strength. And while this it requires enough distance to build, and what we're doing, for example, requires a certain amount of distance to build broadly application and solutions, but maintaining connection to your own authentic understanding
Mm-hmm.
of a space really creates this level of resilience and purpose throughout the entrepreneurial life cycle. It is very much a roller coaster. It is not um, like a linear path from
Mm-hmm. Oh no,
yeah,
I know.
it goes very unexpectedly, can make spontaneous spikes, and then it's similar to the stock market in some ways, because you can never fully predict everything that's going to happen.
Yeah,
But what you can do is focus on what's within your control, what you are good at, what unique perspective you have that others may not have, and how that perspective will further create solutions that have not been addressed and have not existed historically.
yeah. I mean, that's important. You have to have a vision. You have to have a dream, I believe, too, and a passion, and resilience, because it is hard. Like you said, it's very hard. It's ups and downs, and that can last for a long time. And it's a marathon. I always say it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. And those who make it are those who never give up. Those that are emotionally and physically strong, because it takes both. And I think you have to be surrounded by people around you who believe in you too. That helps, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I mean, there are a lot of times where it just feels like either things are not moving as fast as you would like, or
yeah,
you're comparing yourself to maybe other entrepreneurs, or there's a lot that we consume on social media that inevitably causes for
yeah,
comparison, or makes us feel like we're not doing enough,
yeah.
or this cat and mouse game where things are never moving fast enough, and making sure that maintaining that perspective, and that good things do take time, and the balance of moving quick and fast, but also knowing that it doesn't all happen in the way that we're expecting it to, or
Yeah,
it may take longer than we would like, but those that do succeed and that do make it have to really have that level of resilience
yeah.
and persistence and ability to go outside of your comfort zones.
I think that's the key. I think it's essential to actually go outside your comfort zone. I see it as a necessity if you really want to grow and reach your goals. Yeah, it's
Completely.
uncomfortable, but personally I love it because it forces you to reinvent yourself all the time. So that's wonderful. I
Absolutely.
thank you so much, Melissa. If someone wants to reach out or get hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Absolutely. So again, anybody wanting to learn more, possibly use our tool, definitely go to our website and sign up for our wait list. For those that want to kind of get in touch more directly, I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn and really excited to kind of build out this community and learn more from folks. We're constantly learning about ways that we can improve and make sure we're really addressing everything that's happening. So definitely reach out on LinkedIn and sign up for our wait list on our website.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank you again, Melissa. It was an honor to have you with us today.
Likewise, it was great to be here
Yeah.
and always love our conversations.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm sure you enjoyed my conversation with Melissa. Please share her story, share her website, and encourage people to get informed about what's going on out there because you may have a neighbor or you may have a friend of a friend who is going through something like that and doesn't know where to turn or does not know that it is not their fault, that they are just a victim of someone who has abused them. It is abuse. And when we talk about this, we open up doors, and like I said, we can change lives. And nowadays, because of all the turbulence that's happening with AI, with new technologies, with a system that seems to be changing on us every single minute of the day, our society is evolving, and we need to come together as a culture of communication and a culture of, hey, we are all here for you, but it's all about education. So this is what Melissa is doing. She's educating us all on what is truly going on, what resources we have, and her platform is doing just that. So go to certifiai.com and get educated and share that information with your network because, like I said before, it can change lives. Again, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel. That helps me continue what I'm doing here. Spread the word and share all of this on all your social media platforms. And we will see you next time.